Humanist Podcast.
Welcome, everybody, to the Humanist Podcast once more with your ever benevolent host, Hammer. And it is also Steph.
Hello there, man.
Not too much of an extravagant intro for you today, Steph.
I was gonna quote Saburo Arasaka, but then I couldn't get the quote down in my head in time. So next time.
Right. So with that lead up, there's not much more to obfuscate. We're going to do the Cyberpunk 2077 review today.
I thought we were gonna do Mullemek Bygger Bil.
What?
I think so we're doing Cyberpunk? All right.
No, we're not going to do Freddy Fish either. I know you really do want to do Freddy Fish eventually, but we're going to have to save him for 2021.
It's safe to say I'm looking forward to 2021 and everything we have in store.
There's going to be it's going to be a good year, I feel. It's going to at least, I mean, it doesn't really need to do a lot to eclipse 2020, but just needs to be incrementally better.
When you set the bar low enough, everything's a positive surprise, you know.
And the bar is set really low. Oh, doozy. So, what have you been up to lately? Are you been finishing Cyberpunk?
I got 2 of the endings at least, and the thing is, there's still one more ending that I feel is probably gonna be the canonical ending. If you like, depending on what they're gonna do with the DLC, I have some theories on that I can get into later. But I got 2 other endings. One was very cynical and kind of sad. The other one was bittersweet, but at the same time also felt like a pretty good ending to the story.
Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, I didn't complete it yet. I just I kind of waited a little bit. So Steph is going to be the one to blow all the story, the kind of ending part of the game. And I've been, kind of exploring the lateral parts of the game, the side quests and all the grinding, because I didn't want to finish yet. So yeah, Steph is going to get really deep into that, and you've been warned it's going to be spoilers all over.
Oh, we're just going to go. Should we? Maybe we should do like a short overall wrap up impression or like score first, like spoiler free, and then we can get into spoilers, maybe. Or what do you think?
Sure, we can start with the spoiler free.
Just really quick up there.
Yeah. So you can start off. What do you think, kind of, as to summarize?
It's probably one of the most difficult games I've ever experienced in terms of pinning it down to, setting a score, ironically. Let's say, for example, if I were to just judge it on story or like the potential that's there, I think this game is easily at least a 9.
Yeah.
But in terms of how it is right now, I've had, as the game went on, I've had more and more bugs that forced me to reload. Not necessarily because the game broke, but because like things happened where people would spot me through walls and I had to reload checkpoints, and it's just like a lot of these annoyances kind of piled up. So, but that said, there is a lot to love in the game. I felt the combat is very satisfying to me. The driving, the feel, the vibe, Night City itself, all of it is great, and I don't think we've seen quite anything like it, especially like Night City. So with the bugs and in its current state, with my experience on it, my personal on the Series X, I'd say it's a solid, let's say 8. With the potential to be close to a 10 if they do the same kind of DLC as they did with Witcher. But yeah.
Mm.
What about you?
Yeah, so I kind of agree with you on all of the major points there.
Mm,
You pointed out that the game has an amazing potential, like being fully polished without bugs and stuff like that.
yeah,
It's kind of unique. Like you said, with Night City as the stage. I also love the combat. I felt that the combat, like you said, that you had some problems with enemies spotting you in like unnatural positions, like through the walls and stuff. I've had
sometimes,
none
yeah.
of that.
Oh, really?
Like, yeah, the bugs that I've experienced are not disrupting the gameplay.
Ah,
Uh,
okay.
so I've only it's like only after cutscenes, my dude might, the clothes on him might not load properly.
Yeah.
Sometimes this actually one time his dick was out during like the next the next section. He was like naked. So uh yeah, so I actually haven't had too many bugs. It was the first kind of 20 minutes of the game I had some. And then I don't know. I don't think that I had a lot of bugs actually. It's just minor ones. Sometimes, the guns stick to the hands when they kind of want to, I don't know, open a door or grab for something, and the gun is kind of sticking to the hand while they do that.
Yeah,
But that's maybe like the most interruptive uh, bug that I've experienced.
that's
Like,
interesting too.
yeah, I think that I've been actually quite lucky, and I
Mhm.
think that maybe is the part one of the major reasons why I don't really get the hate, because I had such a lenient experience.
Yeah.
Um, and I feel that like you said, the driving is excellent, or a little bit of tweaking with the cars.
Yeah.
The motorcycles were excellent. I
Mm.
mean, fun and controllable. But I feel that the gameplay, the car driving gameplay was not optimal, but
No.
can be. You can kind of tweak it a little bit to be to be a little bit better. But I don't know. Maybe it's just because you aren't supposed to take a 90-degree turn at 200 miles per hour
Yeah.
in like any universe. Basically, that's hard to do. But yeah, so some difficulty with the kind of navigating with the cars, and I've tried
Mm.
to not use the fast travel system as much,
Yeah, same.
because I feel that, yeah, it's worth just driving around and experiencing Night City, and also you do discover a lot of, you know just a lot of shit on your way to some other mission. You discover small stories that unfold, and that's kind of what I love about an RPG like this.
Uh-huh.
um when have If I had to kind of put a number on it, like you said, I would have rated it 9 out of 10 in a perfect bug free, kind of fleshed out form, considering the potential.
Mm.
But I'm actually gonna land on a 7 out of 10.
Damn.
Yeah, which is kind of a little bit lower than you might expect, but uh the reason I'm gonna land on the 7 out of 10 is that I feel that some parts of the game are a little bit more shallow
Yeah.
than what you might I mean, you expect there to be like a thick amount of content, and there just is a little bit lackluster. Like some parts of the game are like that. Some parts of the story are like that. Um, to some people, that's gonna like not matter, but I don't know. I feel that maybe there was just a slight too heavy emphasis on the side quests, even though I do enjoy that a lot.
Mhm.
But some parts of the story were just, I don't know, kind of a little bit shallow, a little bit too quick, I feel,
Yeah.
and had the potential to be a little bit more engaging.
Just a small interim here. Can you hear the
Yeah.
voices in the background?
No,
Okay, good. Then
can't
we can
hear
continue.
anything.
Yeah. Just gonna cut that in post. Anyway.
Mm,
Yeah, but I do agree with you because while I wouldn't put it at a 7, but then I do also agree, like the more you say these things, the more I realized I've experienced the same things. And
yeah.
I've also, especially the main story, while it was good, it had quite a bit of. First of all, it was way shorter than I expected, and I thought it was going to be more of a climb towards. Uh, I don't know. Like I thought it would be more of a difference in terms of like where you start as a street kid, for example, and where you end up like really hanging in there with the big guns of the corpos, like the top tier corpos, you know.
Yeah.
But ultimately, it
Yeah,
wasn't.
like you said. Mm. Yeah, like the career paths or kind of background stories are not as impactful
That yeah,
as maybe the promotional material would kind of lead you to believe. I don't
yeah,
really I don't know, because I mean, I can only blame myself. They never kind of promised anything directly. There's just marketing buzzwords here and there, but for me, one of the things was that I would expect some of the story of a corpo playthrough to be based around the inner workings of the corporation.
yeah.
You
I
know?
thought so too, and in the end, I feel like you get a little bit of all of it, but
Mhm.
ultimately, you're still a street kid. That is the
Yeah,
main here.
yeah,
V is still a street kid no matter what, and he
yeah,
can flirt with the corpos, and he gets involved with the nomads, but then and you kind of get welcomed to them. But you're always a street kid, and my V character, even though I had 300,000 credits in the bank and I was riding around in a Bugatti, I still looked like the biggest douche punk
mhm,
mercenary
yeah,
ever. You know?
yeah, yeah. I do. Yeah, that's kind of one of my gripes with the game, uh, because this was, I don't know, this was a part of the game that I think was overpromised. Like, it
Yeah.
was very strongly hinted that the career or the background paths was gonna be very impactful, and they're not very impactful at all. And like you said, you're still a street kid. You can kind of feel that they wanted to do more, but they just had to kind of give up and make a more rounded, kind of general way to implement the system, where it couldn't be as, as unique with the individual paths.
Yeah.
You just had to kind of mix them a little bit more together, and then there's so many other things to consider when making such a huge game that I think that it was just too complex to weave all the paths together if you were to have like such a unique experience with each of the paths.
Other things would have to be sacrificed for sure. Um,
Yeah.
but then again, I also have a small digression when it comes to what you said about the side quests, and
Hmm.
less about the story, because one of the things about the how the story is built up is that if you just do main story and you don't bother too much with exploring the sub stories with the characters and everything involved, your your ending is very different. But also, let's say for example, for my case, I didn't really care too much about the Pan Am storyline with the nomads and everything. I thought it was all right, and it it was fun to see, but I never was really that interested in the nomads. So I just figured, all right, I'll do what I have to, and
Yeah.
then I'll just head back into the city and do my thing there. But
Mm.
then it turns out towards the ending, if I wanted a proper good ending, I needed to not only do the required Pan Am storyline, but I needed to do the additional sub stories later, because they might
Mhm.
as well just be called branches of main missions, in my opinion. Same goes for Rogue and a lot of the other characters as well. They
Yeah.
are quite impactful. So
Yeah. Yeah. And okay, so I didn't complete the game yet, but I already kind of noticed that with the game, that there are some side storylines that are not really side storylines,
yeah,
like you just mentioned, because these are so very fleshed out,
yeah,
and like heavy hitting. So yeah, I kind of noticed that you have to do them or to enjoy the game, but I still feel that there are some areas of the game that are a little bit too. That's not what I'm criticizing, because those side missions are fine, and even if you consider them part of the main story, I still feel that the kind of the spine of the
Yeah,
main story, if you know if you know what I'm getting at, the kind of the core of it is a little bit too thin. I
yeah,
maybe a little bit too short. You could have the crescendo is not as high as you want it. I don't know. I just feel that there's some kind of motivation in V or something that's just a little bit lacking.
yeah.
Um, yeah, I can't quite kind of nail it down, but I feel that it's a little bit too scant in areas. The main story.
And I agree with you. I actually
Yeah.
do, because I also thought side stories being very impactful or not, I thought that, like, for example, for me, I thought the game was about forging my own path mostly, that I could succeed with whatever I was doing. That, of course, there could
Yeah.
be bad endings as well, but I also wanted there to be a decent ending where, um, my V could still get a good ending, forging his own path, becoming a legend, all these things. But it
Right.
doesn't really work that way, and I'll get into that when we come to spoilers, which I guess we can get into soon.
Yeah, we can we can kind of start that now.
Yeah, yeah,
So let's kind of pick the game a little bit apart. Start from the prologue and do a spoiler focused type of review.
yeah. I want to ask you one thing about the
Yeah.
prologue. What do you think of it wholeheartedly? Like, if you think of the prologue as a package, well, what did you think about that one?
Uh, I liked it. I liked the prologue. Was a little bit disappointed afterwards with the corpo thing, like all the things I've mentioned, that the kind of corpo theme is not, it's not really carried through. You
Hmm.
start off like almost immediately getting just kicked out of the corporation,
Yeah,
like fuck you, goodbye, and then okay, now you're a street, like you said, you're a street kid,
yeah.
Um, but I feel that the missions and all the build up and stuff was really good.
Hmm.
A little bit chaotic. Some I have had some difficulty kind of believing that V would, being like a cynical corpo um, pawn, or someone who has been at the backstabbing game in the corporations for a long time already. He kind of accepted a lot of the fixers and stuff like that just a little bit too fast
Yeah,
for
yeah,
me. He wasn't critical at all. These are criminals, and I mean, in Night City, you don't get anywhere if you expose your back too much. And I feel that he was a little naive at some parts of the prologue,
yeah.
but yeah, overall, I liked it, and I like the friendship with Jackie. I think that, I don't know. Yeah, I liked it. It was a little bit too cliche and stuff, but it was all right.
But in
What about
terms
you?
of, yeah, I actually thought the prologue missions with the
Hmm.
heist and everything were
Heist was brilliant.
definitely, yeah, it was the most cinematic, and it
Yeah.
was the times where I was at the edge of my seat the most, for sure.
Hmm. Yeah.
Because later, even the interlude with Johnny as well, because as soon as the
Yeah.
prologue is done, obviously you get to see how Johnny died, or
Yeah.
how he got
Yeah.
wrecked by Smasher.
Yeah.
Um, and I all of those things I liked a lot because I was having a lot of fun. I was really like, this set a really high bar for what was expecting of the game to
Yeah.
follow up on. But and all these things where you go into those, like, that the hacking thing, the editing mode when you go into cyberspace, or like not cyberspace, when you
Yeah.
go through memory logs of people and you can try and do all the reconnaissance and these things. I like that a lot, and I thought, wow, is this the extent? Like, is it gonna be that varied?
Hmm.
Uh, but and yeah, there is some of that later on too, but it's not a lot of that edge of your seat kind of moments later on in the game, I felt.
No, no, I felt, I had the maybe that's why I feel that it was a little bit too lackluster. I didn't get that feeling. Like you said, I wasn't, you know, as on the edge of my seat at any of the other missions later on.
Yeah,
And it was built very cinematically, like you said, with the but also with like a lot of creative game elements to kind of keep you engaged and vary it up, with a little bit of detective work, a little bit of dialogue, a little bit of combat, a little bit of
yeah,
stealth, you know, kind of showing off what the game could be. But and that's what I wanted from the main story. I wanted it to be like a cool, well thought out, or story for V, where he could kind of get the motivation to bring down, this big bad corporation villain somehow.
yeah,
But I don't feel they delivered 100% on that. And some of the mission, I mean, we're very critical here. Some of the missions are varied for sure,
yeah,
but they really don't bring you into like a full on story mode. You just feel that it's a long side mission.
yeah.
Kinda.
I started feeling like it became more of a main story around the point where, for example, when you every time you're with Jackie,
Mhm.
I thought this felt proper because you have another guy with you that it also brings context, that brings more. And like when you go to the Maelstrom people and all that, I loved all of that. You go to
Yeah,
the afterlife, and Jackie's kind of like he's the hype man who's really excited to be for the road ahead, and V's kind of just sort of on the same boat, but he's also tagging along a little bit. It feels like it's Jackie rubbing off on him with the whole ambition and legend thing.
yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, sure.
but I also thought more, yeah. And then you get to the point where, I mean, there's a lot of missions that I don't really remember much about, but but to be fair, I was never bored. It was always fun,
No,
or like the
no,
gameplay
no.
was always entertaining. But when I really felt the stakes up itself a little bit again was when you get to the parade, the Arasaka parade, when
Sure. Yeah.
Hanako and everything is in there. I love that mission when you're supposed to help Takemura, one of my favorite characters still,
Mhm.
to kind of like infiltrate and meet with Hanako, the daughter of the deceased Saburo Arasaka, and try to talk reason to her. I loved everything about that mission because you meet her bodyguard, Oda, and you do all these things where you try to infiltrate. It's a big scale thing. You take out the snipers, you try to jump in there, and then you have this super epic fight with Oda. Even though I was so over leveled that I completely thrashed him.
Yeah.
But the cinematic feel of it all was great, and I really enjoyed myself in that mission.
Yeah, and like you said, I mean, that mission was great, and I feel that the only thing I wanted was just a little bit more of that, you
Yeah,
know? Just for it to be a little bit longer. Granted, I haven't finished the game, but I know that I'm on the last stretch now.
yeah.
And yeah, I feel that it was, I don't know, a little bit short or a little bit too skinny of a main kind of, yeah. Like you said, the prologue was very promising. And if it just had been just a little bit more of that, then it would have been 10 out of 10. But this is still nitpicking. I still think it was a great game and a great experience.
The gameplay makes up for it.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
And the
And
characters are good. It's just that it's not enough of them to like.
mhm.
There are certain characters that come in and you feel like they're supposed to have a huge impact, but you don't really they don't take the time to set it up. For example, a good example of that is Hanako Arasaka.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
j- so, for example, I thought by the time you get to the parade and do that mission, I thought that was about halfway point of the game. And I thought that
yeah.
from there on up, you were gonna start really hitting the big leagues and really trying to start to make an impact on the Megacorp Arasaka. However, it's
Right.
not. It's the beginning of the end.
Yeah, yeah. And
Uh,
right,
yeah,
it's funny that you mentioned that because I had the exact same feeling. I feel that kind of he wasn't ready yet, you know?
yeah,
There was still a long struggle ahead, and Arasaka is like set up to be this, such a huge complex corporation with all of the sub levels and subdivisions of departments, and you just like you said, you feel that when you meet with Hanako, you have this in, and but you're still gonna need to kind of set up a huge coup d'état,
Yeah.
and you're gonna need to plan it. You're gonna need to steal some information here, maybe steal some tech or some gear, or disrupt something,
Mhm.
and kind of build up this whole overthrow. But yeah, like you said, it's like, yeah, then you meet with her and it's like, oh, let's get
I
going. It's the last section.
Yeah, because here's the other thing though. I wanted to play the corporal way. I wanted to be
Yeah.
a little bit cynical. I wanted to trust Hanako, and okay, this is going to be spoiler for the ending a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
So be ready for that. But I wanted to trust her because she was talking. She seemed more of a human than
Hmm.
Saburo, and especially like Yorinobu just being the edgy kid taking over.
Yeah.
So I thought, all right, how about I help Hanako and just kind of go the corporal way, but not being I didn't want to be their slave or didn't want to sign up with them in that way or anything. But here's the
No.
thing: if you do that, Johnny is gonna be like, no, what? You know what? Fuck you. You betrayed your ideals. You betrayed us. You betrayed blah blah blah. He's just gonna be like a super piece of shit. There's no middle way here. No middle way.
Yeah.
Either you completely fuck up with Johnny, even though I spent quite a bit of time establishing trust with him,
Hmm.
doing all the side quests with the samurai band and all that,
Yeah.
and then but then like you get two options, which is like, all right, either you siege Arasaka Tower with Johnny and Rogue, or
Hmm.
you become a corporal rat that kind of just gets super shafted. And Hanako
Okay.
is with you in a board meeting trying to take over. Yorinobu
Uh-huh.
sends his men, wipes the board members, and then you have to run to Mikoshi, the big MacGuffin that contains all the engrams and all that, right?
Yeah. Right. Right.
And Hanako, then you just get told by Hanako that, all right, just go for Yorinobu, but don't kill him. I want to deal with my brother myself. And it's like you feel a little bit of that. You have a
Hmm.
little bit of a bond of or with Hanako.
Hmm.
But then interesting thing is you get to Yorinobu, you fuck him up. He's already fucked up because Smasher is the last boss. And I completely wiped the floor with Smasher because I was very over leveled.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I just stun locked him with the katana, and he just keeps talking all these babble, but I'm just completely wrecking him piece by piece.
Yeah. He's like, "You're gonna die now, weakling," and then you just fucking kill him in one stroke.
Yeah, I just kept stun locking him with the strong attacks from the katana, and it took like each strong attack took maybe like almost 10% of his HP.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And then I at one point I dodged back to see what he'd do, and he launches his missiles at me. And to be fair, that hit quite a lot for
Yeah.
enemy of his level compared to mine at that point. So I was like, wow, if
Yeah.
I was appropriately leveled, this would be a hard fight probably. But then I just
Mm.
back to stun lock him and just tear him to pieces. But yeah, and then you know you get to Yorinobu, you talk to him. The engram is fucking you up, and you're just like you're barely alive at this point because the engram is taking over your body.
Yeah.
And Hanako comes in, and apparently there is some bullshit between Yorinobu and her. Um, and then you get obviously they promise that they can help you remove the engram
Hmm.
from your body to save your life. And that's all I really wanted, to live my life still as a merc, but just
Yeah.
get that
Yeah.
engram outside and die. But you can't get that. You know what happens? You wake up in the fucking orbit station of Arasaka, and you do this like really crazy where cognition test over and over and over in the epilogue, and you keep hearing Johnny's voice. You can, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't finish the storyline of Panam, and
Yeah.
I didn't. So they said like, yeah, you can call people you're close to, and it became very like almost as if the people I met were like, hey, yeah, nice to see you. Talk to you when you get back. Mm-hmm. Yep. And like the V I play was so fucking alone. And then
Yeah.
he keeps doing these cognition tests. He doesn't know what for. He doesn't know what's keeping him there.
No.
And then
He's royally fucked.
yeah, and then like eventually Anders Hellman came in my playthrough because I didn't know that you could save Takemura.
No.
So for me, he was dead. And I was wondering when he was. I didn't know that you could actually save him. So fucking Anders Hellman comes in and just gives me a deal that either the two ways to go about it is like, all right, either you succumb, relinquish all your rights, and become have your engram made and made part of Mikoshi,
Mm-hmm.
or you just go back to Night City and live out your remaining months before you die, because apparently even though the procedure was a success, you sustain damage similar to extreme radiation poisoning, so your DNA is like permanently altered and whatever, and you're like
Okay. What a
uh
weird elaboration for or explanation for that
yeah, but
timer.
yeah, but that's what they say, that's
Yeah.
what they
Okay.
said in
So
game. And so I was like, is this it? Like, Johnny also made me feel like a huge asshole that made the canonical wrong ending and whatever. And it's just like, wow, I'm getting heavy
yeah.
punished for what I thought would be a middle way, because
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to sell my soul to Arasaka. And then the other ending was just giving Johnny control, um, and let him and Rogue assault Arasaka, which was pretty cool to some extent because
Yeah.
it's a replay of how Johnny died to begin with, but this time, of
Yeah.
course, he's successful. You know he kind of gets closure with a lot of people, and it's V is a really interesting epilogue um with him and V, because suddenly V, your character, is you meet with him in cyberspace where
Mm-hmm.
Alt Cunningham is there as well,
Mm-hmm.
and you just sit down with V, except this time you're Johnny, and you get to see like this version of V that is exactly how you customized him and with the gear and everything, right? And you have a talk with him, and it's really weird, but it's also kind of wholesome. And he just
Yeah.
agrees that, yeah, you know what, it's fine. The deal was that one of us was gonna die. I'm happy to give my body to you, Johnny. You know, he's like that, and Johnny is a changed man. And then there's this epilogue of him kind of like hanging out with this kid who's an aspiring rocker, and Johnny buys him like a proper real guitar and all that, and then
Mm-hmm.
he just packs his things and leaves Night City.
Yeah.
Which was all in all, that was a good ending, I thought. But I wanted to play more as V, so this still didn't feel like the canonical ending. Turns out you
Yeah.
have to finish all the sub stories of Panam Maker and Ally, then you get an additional choice during the ending. If you choose that one, you choose to live out the remaining days with the Aldecaldos, but
Mm-hmm.
it kind of leaves it a little bit open, and I think that's where the DLC is going to come in.
Okay. So okay. Yeah. So one thing I wanted to ask you was what do you think about Johnny? What do you think about that whole story kind of device?
I liked it when you played, um, when you supported him.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that part. Like, I liked him then. I liked having him show up and give his opinions and these things. I was fine with that. Sometimes it could be a little bit annoying. Other times I thought it actually added to it, because suddenly
Mm-hmm.
it makes you feel a little bit less alone as a protagonist.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But as soon as you turn on him, I think it's
Yeah.
a little bit poorly defined uh, what he thinks of you, or like there's no middle way. Either he ends up hating you and think you betray him, blah blah blah, or he you just relinquish control to him. And that's interesting because in an earlier point of the story, the two of you kind of agree that no matter what happens, he says like they're still willing to die for each other. Johnny agrees that he's gonna he just wants Smasher, and then he lets V do whatever he wants. Sort of. That's what it got to, but that doesn't happen. It just doesn't
No.
happen. That's not an option in the end, and that disappointed me and it annoyed me too.
I absolutely understand what you mean, and I wanted to kind of talk about this at a game design, kind of story design level, because I
Mm,
think it's very dangerous to introduce such a strong personality into a game about basically living your own life, your own dream, and that's
yeah,
what you're experiencing in the ending here. You don't feel that the Johnny, the kind of the right decision to make is your decision,
yeah,
and that's very, that's not good for an RPG with, of a story kind of branching story focus like that. I
yeah,
feel that you shouldn't be punished. Maybe you could, I mean, you can be punished for your choice. Like, I mean, it could be a morally bad choice, and you would expect that other characters would react negatively to what you decided. But the thing with Johnny is that he is so intertwined with V that it kind of ruins it a little bit for V. Uh,
yeah,
Johnny overpowers him, uh, and that's not the player. That's just something that you just have to sit back and watch happening. um, which I didn't really like. At least in the start, I really, really hated that. And then I kind of warmed up a little bit. Like you said, some moments Johnny kind of adds a little bit of flair to the situations.
yeah.
Sometimes it's very, very tacked on, and you feel that they just, yeah, this is a perfect time to include Johnny. Here comes Johnny. You kind of
Yeah.
expect him to pop in and have a snide remark about something. Um, but sometimes it does add to kind of the dystopia of Night City and the crazy situations that V finds himself in. But yeah, I didn't really like the forced nature of Johnny when he kind of comes in and does Johnny stuff,
Yeah, it can be too
and kind of,
much.
yeah, it's not that it. I mean, I respect the kind of story, or the what they try to achieve with it, but I feel that in a game where you have so much freedom and the goal is to kind of get the player to associate with the character they're playing and feel that they create their own adventure and, play their own way,
Yeah,
or to have such a strong parallel will, imposed on your own character is a little bit, it's not maybe the best kind of story choice. Or I don't know what you think about that.
yeah. I One thing that really dawned on me, especially with the ending where I relinquished control to Johnny and I was sitting and talking with V, is
Mhm.
that V isn't really you. V is V. Is
Yeah.
his or her own character.
Yeah, right.
It's not really that much of a representation of the player. It's a character that you can form to varying degrees. You can influence their style of like how they operate, how and these things, but ultimately it's still V to a large
Yeah.
extent. It's its own character, and that was really exemplified when, even though it was cool to see and sit there and interact with your player character,
Mhm.
but it felt like its own character,
Yeah. Yeah.
and I liked it for that ending because I chose to just go with Johnny. So it fit that. But did I feel like it was my player character that was sitting there and talked to? Apart from the looks, no. And that's just, if you think of it that way, it becomes quite different.
Yeah. We
So
differ, but we differ on that because I don't think that I would see V as like my character, and that's why I hate Johnny so much. That's why the first thing I wanted to do was just, get him out of my head.
yeah,
Why is there a parasite in my head? Fucking parasite, get out. That's like my initial thought, and that's what I carried through. So I always kind of wanted Johnny to just go away.
yeah,
I always chose the offensive, hateful comments to him, and kind of chose to ignore him as much as I could.
yeah,
I don't know if that's something that people can relate to, but that's just me. I didn't really like that choice of Johnny. Sure, because he's so intrusive, you know.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would have wanted it to be like he can be in your head. You don't have to die. You know, he can just be a parasite in your head,
Hmm.
and in story interactions, he can kind of come in and talk to you and give his his opinions on stuff and try to sway you.
Yeah.
But ultimately he can't kind of take control over you, or like you said, fuck you over because you chose something else.
Yeah.
uh that I didn't like, that he has like a tangible control over you. But I mean, that's the story they wanted to tell, so I can't really fault them for that. But
Yeah.
not that's not something I like
And
about. Yeah,
ultimately, this all depends on, like, your mileage will depend on how much you like Johnny as a character,
yeah, sure.
and how much you like the dynamic between them. And for me, I thought there was a cool story there, but it's not really the story I picked first. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
that's why when I ended up with Johnny's ending, I thought it
hmm
was a cool ending. It was a cool story, but it wasn't the one I wanted to experience for
yeah
my own character.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I mean. I think that I react a little bit more allergically to that than
Hmm.
you do.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what I mean, that you kind of you don't need to feel that V is you in per se, that it's, Steph in Night City, but you feel that you are guiding V and controlling him.
Yeah.
And that illusion is kind of broken when the game really forces you in either direction with a very like hard story element like that. But still, I think that maybe I react very. I really don't like that, and some people might really enjoy that. And if you vibe with Johnny, then you really get everything you can want in this game.
Yeah. And I do agree with you. Like, I see your point totally. But I was also a little bit like, I was a little bit disappointed that you had to go with Panam's ending to get like the canonical good ending.
Yeah, yeah.
I haven't done that one yet. I just read on it in preparation for this. And
hmm
also, to be fair, there might be a lot of things that I've missed. There might be some small cues here and there that could have made other dialogue options available to me. But I,
Sure.
I just remember the disconnect I felt with what I mentioned earlier, with first talking it out with Johnny, brawling it out, like, bearing the axe, agreeing that I would retain control. He would give his life, but I would help him finish off some things, which primarily seemed to be kill smasher. And I'm like, hey, I would have
Yeah,
done that without you saying so. Let's do it. And
yeah, and
I was willing to do these extra things for him to get on his good side, give his last requests before I kind of took back my body and did my own thing. But that
mm,
doesn't. But in the end, and that's what I had in mind going forwards the whole time. And then ultimately, when I chose to trust Hanako, he was like, "You know what? Fuck you, dude. You betrayed your own creed, your principle." The V back with Dexter Deshawn said, like, "Go out in a blaze of glory or live the quiet life you betrayed." Blah blah blah. I was like, "Fuck you, dude. Where's this coming from?" And then there was even a dialogue option. I was like, "I just wanted to finish this as friends." He's like, "I don't think that's gonna be possible anymore." I'm like, "Dude, what? Fuck
yeah,
you, man."
yeah. but yeah, like Johnny, I don't like Johnny like as a character. I don't really like him.
Yeah.
He's a fucking douchebag. But
Yeah.
like you said, the build. Yeah, I also had that scene where they kind of agree on what's going to be like the plan going forward. And I also felt that in that moment, because I had fucking hated Johnny for so long and
Yeah.
ignored him.
Yeah.
That was very weird, that interaction where
Yeah.
B is like, "Yeah, I would have done the same thing for you."
Yeah, yeah.
That
Oh,
was
you got that one
basically,
too?
yeah. I had that.
Uh,
That was like I could like blow him off with the. I just chose that because I thought that was so inappropriate for my V.
Yeah.
which basically hates Johnny and ignores him and always kind of turns him down and tries not to answer his questions.
Yeah.
But then he's like, "Yeah, I'd give my life for you too," you know? And
Uh,
that's what I mean by forced, because
yeah.
I my V considers Johnny a parasite in his head and works hard to get him out of his head, you know?
Yeah, that's really weird too because for my the way I interacted with Johnny, that thing fit like having
Yeah.
those kind of options. But the hearing that you got it too, even though you chose like to blow him off the whole time, that surprises me. That makes then I understand a lot more what you mean.
Yeah, it kinda yeah, I don't know. But like you said, we haven't mapped out the full trees of conversations and pathways, so maybe I was a little bit too kind to Johnny in a moment of weakness. But yeah, I
Yeah.
just felt the whole Johnny thing constantly introduced a little bit of like breaking the immersion kind of
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
little bit of like forced story. You kind of feel that the game designers and story writers are forcing something on you here,
Yeah.
like uh yeah. And I don't know, yeah, I'm just a little bit allergic to that in the RPG, like vast story RPG genre, you know.
Yeah, and all of this is like I would still say there are many parts of this that I enjoyed in terms of story as well. But
Oh, sure, sure. We're
but
criticizing very heavily, but you know,
yeah, but we're also kind of figuring out some problems we have with it as we're going along here too, since we're comparing
yeah,
notes. So that just kind of send it in a spiral. But I think that I'm very curious to hear what other people have experienced. What was their take on this story? Like I really want to hear other viewpoints on this as well. So please comment. But did it work for you? Did it not? Do you share our experience? But if we want to talk about I mean, we've already gushed a lot about the positives because when we
yeah,
talked in the last video, when we had like this up to this point kind of update, all of those positive impressions about the gameplay and the world itself and all that still holds up. That stuck through
oh,
to
yeah,
the end. Um,
yeah,
I felt like a badass so many times. You know, like for example, when you assault Arasaka Tower, you're just in the elevator, right? And they're like, "Yeah, they're waiting for you. Be ready as soon as the door opens." And as soon as the door opened, it's just like I just blasted off like Mach 3 and just chopping people's heads off, dodging in slow mo. They didn't hit me like barely even once, didn't scrape me. Whenever I took a little bit of damage, one swipe with the katana just instantly regenerated my health. And it's just like, just completely obliterated them. And I was just
yeah,
like, wow. And these are Arasaka elite guards. And it just made me feel extremely badass. Like all the
yeah,
training
yeah,
was worth it, you know? So that I feel Cyberpunk has nailed that to make you feel like you're dangerous kind of, you know?
yeah, 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 absolutely. And the gameplay wise, it's an amazing game. And like I said, I didn't have many bugs. So the highlight of the game was the gameplay
Mhm.
for me. And I mean, I did enjoy the story a lot too. So absolutely great game with a little bit just a little bit more, you know, story refinement.
Yeah.
It would have been clear 9 out of 10, maybe even 10 out of 10 in like a perfect state. But I mean, I'm undercutting it a little bit because I didn't like Johnny.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
And I
you
understand
know,
it
I'm
because it's
landing
a
on
good part.
but yeah, absolutely a very, very great game. And I mean, I did put almost 60 hours into it, and I'm gonna put some more hours and finish it, you know, and get some endings.
Yeah, just make
Uh,
sure you finish off all of the storylines with Pan Am just so you can at
yeah,
least get.
but I already have. You know, you said you hated Panam, but I've done all the stories with her.
Oh, okay. Well, I didn't hate her. I just didn't find it all that interesting, to be fair. I think she's an alright character. It was just I just didn't want to involve myself too much. I thought it was very more optional than it was.
Yeah,
Um,
but that's a fault of the game too, I feel, because like a story like Panam's is very I mean, I loved her. I liked her. I kind of wanted to be a boyfriend character, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I chose all the right, you know, flirty lines and stuff like that.
Mhm.
But um But I feel that if you didn't like her and you didn't want to do that, that's not your V, then you should be able to do that without getting, punished later on for
Yeah.
that. That's not too. You can get consequences,
Hmm.
but it shouldn't kind of diminish your experience, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what I felt because I played it so that I was like good buds with all the with nomads and with Panem and everything, but I didn't really want to pursue the romance there, and not that you really have to, I think, to get this ending, but I kind of put that storyline apart from the compulsory ones like a little bit on the back burner,
Mhm.
and then I was like, oh well, I guess I have to do it to get the
Yeah,
good ending, but then you know what would have been nice? Like, first of all, if I wanted to play that kind of like a boyfriend character to someone, I wanted to go for Judy. Then I realized
yeah,
she's only for female V.
yeah,
So, but then I wanted to see if they had some more interesting options. I would have wished they had a little bit more because have you been to like in the heart of Corpo Land? Have you been to the store called Jinguji,
yeah, sure, yeah,
which is like the kind of like Corpo Gucci shop?
yeah, yeah.
Have you seen the story event there where the cyber psycho attacks?
No, no, I
Oh,
don't.
I love that part. That was such a great moment. I almost feel bad for spoiling it for you, but all right. Anyway, so cyber psycho attacks, and
Inside the
you,
store?
yeah, inside a store while you're in there shopping normally, suddenly just like this cyber psycho comes in and just like minces up random civilians on the street and just like rampages around in the store, kills the guard, and then you
Yeah,
kill him, and then Max Tack comes in, and Max Tack they're like super hardcore police, right?
yeah,
And they
yeah.
come in there, and there's this chick in front with like full gear and mantis blades, and then they
Ooh,
realize that you've already dealt with the cyber psycho, and then they kind of question you.
yeah,
But the thing is, like, I was playing a pretty bloodthirsty V. I never left any survivors, unless I had to.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that Max Tech lady, you can kind of talk a little bit more with her. And then she tries to recruit you into Max Tech. And I was like, oh
Oh,
shit, if I can join Max Tech, that would have been so sick because it would fit my V's personality, especially because you can call her out on being so borderline psychotic because she talks
yeah,
about like the pleasure of feeling their life slip away on her blades and shit. She's clearly,
a little bit of,
crazy.
yeah,
But I kind of wanted like, what if I could like just do a small romance with that chick instead? That would have been so much more interesting.
yeah,
But
yeah,
you, but ultimately you couldn't. There's like just a little bit of follow up here and there. But I thought, wow, that would have been so cool just to be able to do it. But I couldn't. So Max
yeah.
Tech Lady, if you're out there, message my V.
Yeah, I mean, the romance thing is a funny kind of aspect to this.
Yeah,
I don't have a lot of experience with it. That's kind of what got me into the Pan Am story because I was like, and I didn't spoil myself with it
yeah,
to what extent you could go. So I tried to explore all the way.
yeah. You got the bachelor scene.
Yeah, yeah, but and I got the huge proboscis. I got the largest one. So
Oh boy.
yeah, the augmented, the Arasaka one. The
Oh
legendary.
no.
Okay, yeah, I'm not gonna go further, but and I like that a lot. But yeah, like you say, for that to be really immersive, you should have like a couple of alternatives.
Yeah,
But you don't really have that many alternatives. Like you said, it's like a couple for female V and a couple for male V.
yeah. There's some for different orientations, I guess, which is
Yeah,
cool. I just
yeah,
wish there was. Let's say you added like one more character for each orientation.
yeah. Yeah,
Possibility.
I agree. Yeah, and maybe even more than that. They don't need to be as elaborate.
Yeah,
They don't need to be. You don't need to kind of kill 150 people before you get into someone's pants.
yeah, yeah.
But yeah,
I don't know, but also those cutscenes are hella awkward.
yeah, they are. But I mean, I'm fascinated by that.
Yeah,
Just to think that people kind of sat and designed that scene.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know?
Especially some of the Johnny ones. It's like really um,
Yeah, that's
graphic.
almost like yeah, that's really graphic. And I mean, Johnny's personality from the flashbacks, I'm guessing that's what you're referring to.
Yeah, yeah. In the flashback.
Jeez, he's such a fucking asshole,
Yeah.
just the worst person there is.
And I guess that's also part of the reason why once I just went for like Johnny changes if you do like gradually. He's very influenced by V. If you choose to be buddy with him.
Yeah, but I kind of got that from my Johnny as well. He kind of changed, and that also didn't resonate. I mean, I didn't understand why he would change,
Yeah, because you
and I
didn't do anything for it.
no, and I didn't understand why. I mean, why he was such a douchebag in the first place. That also is a little bit maybe if you know in-depth lore about Cyberpunk, then you understand why Johnny's is the way he is, but he's like such an unreasonable guy. I mean,
Yeah.
I know I understand why he hates the corporations and stuff like that, and that he's bitter, but I mean, he hates his own friends almost as well.
Yeah, and like since I chose to go buddy buddy with him,
Yeah,
his then it felt more natural that he would change, and like eventually when you relinquish control, um, you just fulfill his request of making up for all the shit he did because quite a
yeah,
few of his old friends are still alive because I mean why not, right? If you have enough money you can prolong your life a lot,
yeah.
um, and you can kind of make a lot of things right, and for that I felt that part was well done. But again, if you don't like Johnny, you're not going to get shit out of it. So it's like, yeah,
No, yeah. Yeah, like it's a very hard I think that it's a little bit special for me because I didn't like Johnny, and right away I felt that this fucking parasite in my character's head. I want to get him out and just live life after a post Johnny life.
yeah,
And I mean, I kind of got that from you too when you just kind of told me how you reasoned when you picked the last kind of final option on going all corpo and trusting Hanako.
yeah,
Um, yeah, yeah, but I mean, I still love the game. I still think it's a great game, and I haven't finished it, so I can't really be as critical as I
yeah.
am.
It's true. It's just that because we started the tangent of the story, and then
Yeah.
it just kind of went from there. But actually, I did think it was a good story overall. It's just not as choice dependent as you might think, but at the same
Mm,
time, it is. So it's choice dependent, but not in the good way.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah. I guess that's the best way to explain it.
I absolutely agree. I absolutely agree. So yeah, tell us what you think about this kind of format, guys, in the comments. Do you like this very long format, in-depth discussion where we kind of get into tangents and focus in on small, almost, you know, psychopathically detailed subject matter?
I I also have one more fun fact. One
Yeah,
last thing. If you guys want to really break the game and play God mode, just get the crafting spec for Armadillo clothing mod and just keep making it until you get and get at least the ability to or the perk to craft epic items. Just slot your clothes with Armadillo, and suddenly you went from 150 armor to 500, and you are virtually indestructible. Unless you're fighting Rhino. Rhino can take you down, no matter what.
yeah. So that's a pro tip, guys. And yeah, just tell us what you think about this type of podcast below, and we'll see you guys later.
Happy New
Remember,
Year's.
stay human. Yeah, happy New Year's. Yeah, 2021. Bye.